was of one, a loving companion come to say, God is love. Remember that. And that nothing else matters but love for him. Then Baba went into the house after he had embraced everyone, and then the stay continued. Then the evening meal was provided. There was an interesting little episode in the evening. Baba complained about a noise, a flapping noise, near his bed in the big room. Now, Maya House consisted at that time in this big room, completely stone, built of stone, by Francis, with some help from stonemasons, but it was his work and his project. And attached to that big room, not attached directly, but the two doors close together, close by each other, a small rock room, which was meant for Erich to be there on tap for Baba. And Baba's bed was in the bigger room, the room 20 feet by 30. And Baba's bed was in the corner, and we had put certain long drapes, embroidered cloths from the Middle East, inherited from the Baron von Frankenberg, you know. I've spoken about him and the Sufi Society. And it was a very colourful corner. But Baba complained about a flapping noise, and we thought it must have been the banner that one of the young women, an artist, had painted on it, "Welcome, Maya Baba." It was a long banner, the length of the house, and 3 times we went up, Reg and myself and Francis, but we had no idea where this flapping noise was. It was only after Baba had departed that I happened to realise that it was a piece of light composite wood, very light piece that we had put into an air vent, an air channel in the rock. We had opened up two little areas so that fresh air could come into that big room without opening windows or leaving doors open. So that there was a minimum of cold air on Baba himself over the bed where Baba would rest. We put this flap, and that flap was moving with the wind. I was so sorry that we didn't realise that at the time. Because of that noise, Baba then had the bed moved from that corner which we had so carefully prepared for him to the other side of the room, under the window, placed near the big window that looked out over a large part of Sydney. In the morning, Baba called the children in and of course I wasn't there, so all I know is that
So that night there was a meal? Did anyone stay?
no, there
Everyone
was,
was tired.
yes, it was, there was no, we had our meal down there in the double garage that we had built, that served as a kitchen and also as a dormitory for certain of the women. And then I think we all retired, tired from the excitement of the day.
Where were the men sleeping?
In two tents down in the bush, quite below, as the crow flies, probably 30 metres down the slope, and hidden in trees. Two tents, and we had two big oil drums, empty oil drums that we filled with hot water for the baths in the morning. But unfortunately, it still had a little layer of oil, so it wasn't very pleasant. And also, two of that Joan, my wife at that time, and another young woman, and my two youngest girls, that is Jenny and Marie, were in a makeshift, a very makeshift shelter and tent, small tent.
Was it the piano case?
Yeah, the piano case. It was a little shed constructed from the box that had brought the piano in from Melbourne. And so then, after the children, Barbara called us all in. Now there were total 33 of us had stayed.
After the children.
Huh?
What do you mean by after?
After Barbara had played with the children.
What did you play?
Don't know. Barbara's finger games, maybe finding the finger.
Yeah.
You know, he closes his hand and there's one finger, and you've got to guess what. Yeah, look, I don't know. I've never been there. You want to?
No, just keep going.
Yeah. So Barbara called us in, and we all came in and sat on the floor. Now Barbara was still there on the bed in the corner. The bed had not been moved at that point. And so I can remember, in other words, the bed was in the corner, the east corner of the room. And we all sat on a carpet, on a big carpet that was placed in front of Barbara. Barbara gestured that we were to sit, and I remember in that first session being back 2 or 3 rows back. I was in the midst of the group, and Barbara at one point gestured, "Who loves me?" And my mind typically sort of immediately thought, can I honestly say I love him? That hesitation of not being able to even comprehend what it means to love. That moment of Can I honestly say that? Can I honestly know what it means? Anyway, there was that momentary hesitation, and Barbara immediately pointed to me and said, "Bill, do you love me?" And then I said, "Yes, Barbara." And he said, "Would you throw your 3 children into the ocean if I told you to?" And I said, "Yes, Barbara." And the children were there, but I don't know whether they actually remember. Jenny, of course, was only 2 years of age, and Michael was 5, and Marie, or Ruthie as she was known then, was 7.
Did anyone else sort of gasp, or did you feel sort of...
No, what was so interesting is that as was so apparent with Barbara, there was such a flow that I don't think was even registered by people.
Wow.
Things that happened to an individual would have been registered by the individual.
Yes, yes.
But everyone else so caught up in their own experience of being with Barbara, and that atmosphere was such that, yes, that I'm not even aware that if anyone else was aware of that.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I can remember of that morning that stood out was that at one point we must have got up and it was and there was a certain rearrangement of seating, because I did find myself in the front row with Jenny on my lap, the 2-year-old. And
Were you sitting in chairs or on the...
no, on the floor. Oh yes, we were all on the floor.
All on the floor?
All. Now, yes. I mean, maybe there might have been chairs for the elderly, but I think the elderly at that stage were all able to sit on the floor. Anyway, that's my recollection. And discourses were being read, discourses on worry. There were various ones that have been printed in the books that have been given by Barbara in America at Myrtle Beach and were repeated again here in Australia. And at one point Barbara stopped, gestured to stop the reading, and he pointed towards me and said, "Here we are talking of God, and she has gone to God." And I realized that Jenny, the 2-year-old, had fallen asleep in my lap, and of course I was not aware of it. A nice little human touch, and so characteristic. So characteristic of that period. There were so many little incidents where Barbara was so loving and natural with us.
Now, was this the time when you mentioned the discourse on worry, when Barbara demonstrated?
Ah, yes. And there was that. There was the only other thing that I remember was that in beginning the beginning of the discourse on worry, Barbara dictated that it's a habit of 1,000,000 years that we all worry. Everyone worries. And with the beginning of the reading, what I remember was that Barbara's face reflected, as it were, a number of different expressions highlighting the different people. Like the face was like one who was fat, then one who was thin, one who was smiling, one who was serious. I can't remember. All I remember, what I remember basically was the incredible expressions that Barbara managed to convey. You illustrate that everyone worries, all sorts of people, no matter who and what they are, we all worry. And of course the thing that Barbara is saying to us is that it's a habit, and we've got to get out of the habit. And the only way out of it is through love for him. That we're so busy loving him, thinking of him, calling on him, that we forget to worry about the things that are passing anyway. Yeah. Okay, so that really, it was the morning. I mean, again, all I can say is how wonderful it was for us. There was at the back, a part of the behind Barbara. Not only was there those drapes that I mentioned, featuring his bed in the corner on the walls, with the bed set in, but also there was on the wall alongside Barbara's bed a large mural which had been done by a young woman artist, Frances Lee. Very nice young woman who, a beautiful job of the chart, the story of creation, and a very fine portrait of Barbara in the top right-hand corner.
It wasn't in colour though, was it?
No. It wasn't in colour. Only to a limited, there's a coloured background.
Like a dark background?
Yes, a dark blue background, if I remember rightly. Gosh, now I'm sorry, I can't.
Somehow, for some reason, I imagine it was very dark,
Yeah.
Almost like with chalk drawing on it.
Yes, but very well done. Yes, and Barbara praised it, and did suggest one or two improvements to it, and in appreciation, he plucked out a hair from his own hair, and gave it to Frances, and that.
Was that morning?
I don't remember when, but
how wonderful.
yes, it was, to me, that was again symbolic of the love that he himself demonstrated to us, of how we should be with each other, thoughtful, loving towards each other, appreciative of the fact that God is within each one of us, and we all have our degree of connection with him, our degree of conscious, and that none of us, to use the words of the Bible, none of us are in a position to throw the first stone. Then in the afternoon...
Did you have lunch together, or how was that work? The meals?
I don't remember. I don't remember. But we would have had lunch. We would have had our meals. From my vague recollection, we had a long table down in the garage, where the cooking was done. And but we ate there. We must have, because there's no other place. Yeah.
Where did Baba eat?
Barbara and the Mundley were in the house. We weren't at all in the house. There was none of us. The house was entirely for Barbara.
Who cooked for Baba?
Lorna, sorry. Lorna Rouse, a young woman, was the principal cook. Of course, others helped. And Baba praised the meals that were sent to him. We had bought, I remember buying the best food that we could. I remember going into the city. We bought the food from a well-known shop, fruiterers, in the city that would have had the best produce.
And so it was prepared down in the garage?
Yes, and then carried up.
Right.
Yeah, to Baba. Sorry, I should clarify that, yes. Brought to Baba. And then in the afternoon of that first day, Friday, the 10th of August, it was the play that we had also practiced, a play of Francis called The Seeker. And it was the story of a man seeking God. And there was a chorus, a number of young women, and if I remember rightly, that was Joan and Lorna and Francis, I think.
Francis Lee.
Francis Lee, the artist. I may be wrong, but there were others also. I was a young man, not the seeker. Francis was the seeker. But I had quite a prominent part, and poor Baba had to endure the Australian accents of reciting Francis's poetry. It was all in verse, or free verse, you could say, free verse, the play. But Baba was, all I can remember was Baba seated in the big room, quite close, and the Mundley standing around him, while we were in front of him.
Which was like you would have been...
Again, the east wall, against the east wall, against in front of the drawing. That's where we were. And it was very simply done because, of course, there was no set stage, no curtains. But Baba obviously was very happy with Francis's effort, and he gave Francis, he told Francis to be in seclusion for 28 days, confined to his room, not to come out, and to have only, and I don't remember the quantity of milk, but a certain quantity of milk per day. It might have been a pint of milk, I'm not sure.
So for a month.
But Francis was so, 28 days, and Francis was so overwhelmed with joy that of being given this, that he fell in front of Baba at his feet, thanking him. Yeah.
Did he like prostrate himself?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember exactly. All I know is that Francis did fall in gratitude at Baba's feet.
That must have been quite a surprise to Australians.
Yes,
Used to seeing it.
yes, exactly. This was not the normal form of behaviour. Not at all. Especially with Australians.
So after the play, was there any singing or any other kind of entertainment?
I don't remember. Sorry, Dana. No, I again, it's certain things are very clear in my mind. I can remember certain scenes very, very clearly. I can easily relive them. But other times, what happened? Where did those hours go? We were there. I mean, for example, I don't know, but I do remember this is the sort of thing that could happen. Erich went down to the it's the double garages at lower level to the house. Erich went down, obviously, to convey some message of Barbara's, and he was hurrying back, intent on getting to Barbara. And I stopped him to convey something which I've got no idea what it was, some point that to do with arrangements. And I'll never forget how Erich stopped immediately, gave me absolute 100% attention. There was no wavering in the eyes. He heard what I said, which was only like one shortish sentence, and immediately he was off. But that pure concentration, that pure unwavering attention to whatever was in front of him, it was like living in the moment, living in the present. And it was such a beautiful example, and that vividly, I can remember the location. That is what I mean, that certain scenes were so clear to me. The next morning, Saturday morning, had been designated by Barbara as a time 9 to 11 or 11:30. I'm not sure now. It would be printed somewhere. Time when anyone who wished to come to see him could do so. So we had invited friends, relatives, people that we had spoken to, groups that we had spoken to about Barbara, meditation groups, or everyone. We printed a card in which, an invitation card, you were invited to come and meet Avatar Maya Barbara, and the address, and on the back, the time available, and on the back a little map which showed how to get to the house. And we handed those out, and I handed, of course, to all the colleagues, all the people that I work with I was in the army at the time as a psychologist, and two of the fellow psychologists did come and meet Barbara. At the same time, previously, roughly about a year prior to Barbara's visit, God Speaks had been published, and Barbara sent a message that he wished us